Well, good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. I want to share a lesson that I think is was really, I guess, interesting to me, and I just wanted to share with you about something that we probably don't talk about like we should, but something that maybe we can relate to in a lot more in a different way. Um, it's about kindness, and the title of it is "Who Are You Looking At?" Let's start with a story that I just really enjoyed that I've heard several times over, but it really wraps itself around what our topic is today. There was a traveling man who just wore out, a salesman who went all over the world all the time, and he was sitting down one more time out of the hotel room, sitting down at his meal in a restaurant. Well, the stress of the day's business had just made him so physically tired, and he was just emotionally drained. So consequently, when he placed his order to the diner, he said to the waitress, "I want only two things," in a wearied voice. He said, "an order of pot roast and just a few kind words." Well, the waitress scribbled down his order and began to walk away. The man called after and said, "Wait a minute. I asked for a few kind words." The waitress replied, "Well, sir, the kindest words I can think of you right now for you is don't order the pot roast." I thought it was pretty good. That's kindness. Well, I want to discuss, like I said before, about kindness today. But I know that kindness is a topic that we all know so well about. And I do know that you guys are wonderful in regard to doing kindness for other people. You've done so much for me and my family that that's just a small example. And the stories you tell about calling people and sending flowers and doing this and reporting on them and praying for them, all those are wonderful words of kindness. But I want to take kindness in a different perspective. I mean, we're inspired to do an act of kindness, and we truly love doing them. What are we truly seeing the other person that we're doing kindness for? And that's what I want to talk about. Can an act of kindness be something more than just holding a door open for a handicapped or elderly person, or sending a caring card to them, or delivering some cookies or a cake to cheer them up? Is it more than that? And that is all wonderful, but maybe there is kindness that is given in other ways that have a very deep and a life changing moment to others who need a more personal, spiritual touch to their souls. We see the outer side of them. We see the need of kindness for their life and to bring a smile to their face, and it makes us glow inside and makes us feel good, and that's all right, and that's all wonderful, whatever it may be. But maybe there's another layer below that to where all of a sudden we're not just seeing a person who's handicapped or a person who is lonely or something like that. We see right to the heart, to a hurt that we sometimes just don't notice or we don't see deep enough. And that's where God wants us to touch their lives. I want to share with you a story that comes from the television show called Becker. Now, you may not have watched it before, but Becker was a TV show that went on in the early part of 2000s, and it was a pretty good show. It's about Ted Danson, the actor who played a guy by the name of Dr. John Becker, a very highly talented, highly dedicated, and highly cynical doctor who frustrates his people and frustrates his patients and frustrates even himself. I mean, that's just a cynical kind of guy he is. Well, this one episode is called The Subway Story, and I think it is so powerful about what I'm talking about here that I want to share with you. Now, in this one episode, Becker is on his way from doing a favor for a friend during rush hour on the subway. That we all can relate that when a rush hour is on a freeway or anywhere for that matter. And he's already running late. He's already frustrated when he encounters an elderly woman. She's coming from out of town and trying to get downtown, but is so hopelessly lost and confused, and every opportunity frustrates Becker's attempts to get her home. That's what the whole story is about. So every time he thinks he has shaken her off, she has another moment of confusion, which leads to a more humor and more frustration for Becker. It just really gets ramping up and ramping up of frustrations for Becker as she gets more and more confused. He tries to show her where she is on the subway map and loses seat to a big guy in the subway train who just glares at him and says, "Well, looks like it's not your day, buddy, is it?" It makes him really upset. So he stands up during the whole trip. He loans her his favorite pen to write the directions down. But then she drops the pen, and guess what happens? They step on the pen, and it gets all messed up and broken. And as he stares at the ground, at the pieces, again he hears the big guy say, who's sitting in the seat he wanted to sit, "Still not your day," which makes him more frustrated. So every time he tries to help her off, the old woman looks more helpless and even more confused. And he gets more and more frustrated. He wants to just wash his hands of her, to hand her off to somebody else, but he can't. You can already see where this is going. Becker finally, after all these attempts, eventually escorts her to every station, and every time he thinks she's got it, she looks more confused, and he just groans and goes on to one more with her. Well, meanwhile, back at the coffee shop where his friends have been waiting on him impatiently and somewhat obnoxious, his girlfriend gets really mad in that conversation that once again Becker has shown himself to be totally selfish. And at one point, after hours of waiting and the obnoxious friends have all left, she wonders that if he ever thinks of anyone else but himself as she's doing it. So there's two scenes going on simultaneously. Well, anyway, finally, the scene shifts to where we know it had to go. Finally, Becker has escorted the old woman all the way to her last subway stop, just off of the World Trade Center site. And Becker points to the stairs and says, "There! Now all you have to do is walk up those stairs and you're at your destination." And he turns and walks off. And the woman stands staring up at the stairs and not moving. Becker gets only a few feet away and turns and just stares at her. He sees again that she's lost again. "What now?" he asks. "I can't do it," she says. "Oh, sure you can. Just walk up those stairs," Becker yells, frustration getting really growing in his voice. "I can't. I thought I could, but I can't." And she just sits down on those dirty stairs. And then it happened. Becker, the cynical, the frustrated, self-absorbed New Yorker, turns into Becker, the caregiver. And suddenly aware that something is not right, he stops looking at the old woman and starts looking into her. He asks this question, "Are you okay?" and sits next to her. The woman begins. "It was such a beautiful September morning. My son called from his new job. He loved the job in the office. He could see all of New York. He told me about it. Then he had to go to a meeting, and we hung up. I don't know why I turned on the news a little later. I wish I hadn't. If I'd only known that there would be the last time I would talk to him, I would have something more to say." Becker takes her hand into his, and she leans her head against his shoulder. And you don't know how long they sit there and what he says, but to the friends at the coffee shop later, even if he escorts her home or even walks up those stairs with her, but you know that he is not the same person. So the question today is, when all those irritating folks keep interrupting your day and distracting you from your important work, will you be looking at or looking into? Those times when you're reaching out to someone saying, "Oh, they're sick, I need to bring them some cookies or a cake or give them a telephone call," wherever it may be, as a gesture, as a wonderful, kind moment, wherever it may be. Are you looking at them or looking into them? You never know what you're going to find or what will find you when you do that. There's a philosopher wrote this down and said this: "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a great battle." Proverbs put it another way, but picked up on the same theory. Do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, so you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and man. Well, that is really a cool verse to listen to in Proverbs. I just love that verse. Be not, let kindness and truth leave you. Another way of saying everyone's on a journey. Everyone needs to be looked on the inside as well as the outside. I've been kind of cynical lately. I don't know about you, but kindness seems to be, and even niceness and respect seem to be at a low ebb all around me. I've been seeing people more hostile and uncaring, it seems like. Of course, the news doesn't help. It's all negative news, of course. But even today, people are just abrupt and less kind, it seems like. And I begin to wonder if it's even too late for us. But some very heartwarming news came out of the World Happiness Report I read recently. And it said that the world is kinder than we might expect. This year's check-in on world well-being conducted by Gallup, the University of Oxford, and the United Nations found that around 70% of the world's population did at least one kind thing in the last month, based on the well-being data taken from over 140 countries. And that's a pretty high number of people, report the author says, is something to be proud of. Now, if that surprised you, you're not alone. We often expect our society to be less benevolent than it is, the report found. That's not to say that there aren't systematic social ills and issues we're far from overcoming. It's that people are still constantly surprised by the kindness of others in the face of those issues, which can improve our well-being and encourage others to change their perceptions of how kind our world really is. We need each other more than we might think. I know during the day, I reach out more and more often when I see people that just have a scowl on their face or just like a salesperson or at a grocery store or whatever it may be, and they're just getting beat down by people's apathy or negativity. And I always try to be kind to them, put a smile on their face, whatever. And I'm always giving back 99% of the time, a beautiful smile. I could just see their spirits lift up because I understood the world that they were living in and were. So doing kind deeds for someone has always been shown to make both parties happier. Whether it's returning a stranger's wallet or donating time or money to a charitable cause or as I wrote about purchasing and paying for someone or helping someone out to care for people. Acts of good change the way we see the world, which could change the way the world really is. The report tells us for the better, for everyone. There was a little girl who was sent on an errand for her mother, and she took much too long to come back. And so the mother, therefore, demanded an explanation when she finally returned. The little girl explained that on her way, she had met a little friend who was crying because she had broken her doll. Oh, said the mother, then you stopped to help her fix her doll? Oh, no, said the little girl. I stopped to help her cry. Isn't that sweet? That is so neat. I stopped to help her cry. See, it wasn't the doll. It was the heartbreaking that the girl saw the inside of her friend. Kindness will influence more than eloquence. I'm going to share with you, give you an idea of how to do it. 10 rules for getting rid of the blues in your life. Go out and do something for someone else and repeat it 9 times. There you go. There's your formula. But try to see inside them. Pope Francis had one of my favorite quotes I want to share with you. It says this: rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other, no matter how difficult it is. Life is good when you're happy, but much better when others are happy because of you. Isn't that a great quote? He was very, very insightful man. Well, let me close with a few passing thoughts on this because I think I've made the point here in this lesson. There's a pop star by the name of Cliff Richards, and he was a guitarist. Not important what group he was a part, but he was a very famous star. And he went to a Barari refugee camp in Bangladesh one day as a promotional type thing to visit the ghettos there. He said that the first morning he must have washed his hands a dozen times. He didn't want to touch anything, least of all the people. They were so dirty and so many diseases. Everyone was covered with sores and scabs. And this is what he said. I'm going to read it to you, what he said. I was bending down to one little mite. By the way, he was British, so that tells you how he speaks there. I was bending down to one little mite, mainly for the photographer's benefit, and trying hard not to have too close a contact. Just then, someone accidentally stood on the child's fingers. He screamed, and as a reflex, I grabbed him, forgetting his dirt and sores. I remember that warm little body clinging to me and the crying instantly stopping. In that moment, I knew I had much to learn about practical loving, but that at least I'd started. Practical loving, I love that term, is something we need in this world and not somewhere else, but right before us as we go about our living. It's easy to shout at the TV or gripe to a friend about the lack of love and kindness, but it's a whole nother matter to apply practical actions. Isn't that what is being asked of us in our faith and the treatment of other people? And those practical actions are actions that are not necessarily on the surface, but like Becker found out, and like that little girl found out with the doll and showed us. It's looking at the person and in your act of kindness, reaching deeper into their hearts and seeing them as a hurting person that you can possibly show a spiritual act of kindness. Proverbs says it, and we've said this already. Do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, so you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and man. Bearing another burden of someone else is still current to our lives. Try some practical loving to the heart today and stop the crying in someone's life. Look inside them to their hearts, and it will not only change them, but you. And why is that? Because you've just seen the face of Jesus. Have a wonderful time today. The Lord bless you.